what more do we know about the talks and whether or not there was any material progress?
That's right. The Kremlin did cast these nearly 5 hours worth of negotiations as largely constructive, though they were clear that no final agreement had been reached, especially on the issue of territorial concessions. Now, that's hardly surprising because throughout the negotiating process, the Kremlin has stuck to maximalist demands that Ukraine is not willing to accept. Among those, obviously, is the issue of territory. Moscow has been demanding that they get part of Ukraine's east that they have not been able to take militarily and that Kyiv still controls. Ukraine has ruled this out, and that remains a large sticking point, and clearly that came up in the negotiations and remains a sticking point. From the Ukrainian side, of course, security guarantees are likely to be a sticking point as well. It's hard to see what would satisfy Ukraine that wouldn't be a deal breaker with Russia. So again, hardly surprising that they're saying no final breakthrough was reached, though both sides did say that they were willing to continue working.
And meanwhile, Greg, this is the time when Vladimir Putin is ratcheting up his threats to ships, to navies, to those who he says are supporting Ukraine. What does he be saying in this respect?
Well, that's right. There has been an uptick in targeted attacks on freighters and tankers in the past week. This comes amid a broader push by both sides to target energy infrastructure. Clearly, this has touched a nerve because President Putin said that the Kremlin wouldn't necessarily do, but would consider targeting ships of countries that support Ukraine. Now, both sides are trying to gain an advantage in these negotiations, and they see energy as a key way to do that. For Ukraine, hitting refineries, pipelines, that stops the flow of revenue to the Kremlin's coffers to fight the war, as well as fuel to the battlefield. For Russia, they're hoping that targeting energy infrastructure such as heating and power ahead of the winter warming season will decrease morale and incentivize Ukraine to make more concessions in the negotiations.
And Greg, talking of energy, the EU has reached a deal to phase out Russian gas imports by 2027. Many people would say, finally, and it's maybe coming a little bit too late, but they have had that deal. What are the wider implications of that agreement?
That's right. So Europe did actually have the amount of gas that they imported in the wake of the 2022 invasion. However, they still import about a fifth of their gas supplies from Russia. Now, they've sought to try to get to an agreement where they can phase that out completely, partially so that they're not funding the Kremlin's coffers as well, and partially so they can increase the pressure. There's also been U.S. pressure on Europe to sever energy ties with Russia and buy more American LNG. It appears that they finally reached an agreement to do that. This will be in line with other agreements such as bans on seaborne crude imports. So this is all part of Europe trying to both structure their own energy security and also increase the pressure on Moscow. And again, finally reaching an agreement to sever those energy ties.